Okay, now we're on the same page. I've seen 4 episodes, you've seen 4 episodes, and that's 50% of this show. This was the episode that really sold me on the Acolyte. Like, I was enjoying it, but with this episode, I was like, oh, this is cool, particularly the last few minutes. Maybe it's won some of you over as well, or at least opened you up to giving the show a bit of a chance. And no matter how you feel about the Acolyte, I would hope that we can all agree that at the very least that the last few minutes of this episode are really frickin' cool. Like when that Sith Master floats down in the trees behind Osha. I mean, it was just incredible when I saw that for the first time. I shouted at my TV like, oh shit. It was just so cool. And then the Jedi start freaking out and Jeki's like, what is that? It was like watching a Star Wars horror movie. I just really thought it was cool. Then when the Sith Master deploys a red lightsaber, the Jedi freak out. And next week, I think we're in for a banger lightsaber battle. And I think also we can all agree, no matter how you feel about the show overall, that the fight choreography has been quite good here. So that should be really great. 8 Jedi looking all Main Street Electrical Parade versus 1 Sith Master. And then wild cards, Osha and Mae are also in play. With Mae thinking maybe she was a bit hasty joining the dark side. So Osha and Mae might both end up being Team Jedi, or maybe they'll decide they're Team Osha and Mae. So I'm really excited to see how that all plays out next week. So place your bets. Who is the Sith Master? Some of you are thinking it's Khmer, and I think that's a pretty good guess, especially since they have the same thin, wiry body type. And Khmer is already on planet during this episode, and he's pushing Mae awfully hard. Is he just that dedicated to his master, or is he his master, right? Although, I mean, he does seem to know a lot more than he says, but maybe he's just like the right-hand man to the master, you know? I mean, we're not quite sure. It is interesting because Khmer gets trapped, and could he have gotten down that quickly to be the Sith Lord? Because we actually see the Sith Master a little bit earlier than when he floats down behind Osha. Because in the forest, I only discovered this when going through from my notes a couple of times. Because I was like, what is Saul looking at? So I freeze framed it and I was like, what's going on, Saul? What do you see? And I think that might be a person in those trees, which is awesome. A shadowy figure literally hiding in the shadows. Super cool. So Sith, so awesome. But also, you have to wonder, why does Saul dismiss what he potentially sees? What is Saul hiding? He's hiding stuff because, in fact, he tells Osha, who's starting to feel the Force again, that she's not going to face her sister, but her past. In fact, they both are. And he makes her another promise. And I'm like, Saul, stop writing checks you can't cash. But he says, when we're safely back on the ship with Mae, I promise to tell you everything. And I'm like, I hope you guys get back on the ship. I think maybe not all of you are. So speaking of the past, I also agree with some of you that Mother Coral is likely still alive. Heck, maybe Mother Anastasia is too. They're both very good actresses and I think interesting characters. So you would think maybe the show would keep them around, but then again, they did kill off Carrie-Anne frickin' Moss in episode 1. Not even the end of episode 1, the beginning of episode 1. I mean, she's shown up in flashbacks, and I'm sure we'll see Coral and Anastasia in future flashbacks. We're going back to what happened, because they clearly didn't show us everything that happened. We'll see them again in that regard, but I think that Coral's still alive. I mean, that would work, right? Shades of Darth Maul. And then also, she was a very upset, angry person. So I could see her being like, okay, Anastasia was wrong. I'll take care of this the way I would like to. And I told you last week that I suspect someone might be possessing Mae because of that Force vision that Osha had with her eyes going black, the same way that Anastasia briefly possessed Torben in the flashback. So it might be Coral. It would be horrible if she did it to her own daughter. But, the dark side makes you do weird stuff, man. So this entire episode takes place on Kofar. Well, not all of it. There's a little bit on Coruscant. But beautiful planet. I love the forest towering over the rest of the landscape. And it's like all just like this ledge. I'm like, oh, that's a cool visual effect. And the Jedi Kelnacca has exiled himself here, guilt eating away at him as well. Whew, Torben killed himself. Good catch, some of you. The Torben had a nasty scar out of focus on his face at the end of last week's episode that we, of course, saw in him many years later in the present. Endora, but she seems pretty cool with what they did. She's like, I totally own it. Whatevers. All right, Mike dropped, or in this case, she dropped herself, or Mae dropped her. All right, so what's on the walls of Kelnacca's dwelling, right? Those look like the witchcraft symbols of Anastasia and Mae. I believe there are also Jedi symbols like that as well from the Filoniverse. But you'll notice that literally in the middle of one of them is the yin-yang symbol. We get it, but you know, that's Osha and Mae clearly. So I don't know if I would have literally put the yin-yang symbol in there. All right, so it's a race to Kelnacca. Mae and Kumir versus Saul, Osha, and the Jedi, and their tracker Basil. So we got a mix kind of a Lord of the Rings vibes, and then also Jurassic Park, depending on how deep in the forest you are. It is a little weird that the forest seems to be tropical, and yet the mountainous area seems to be European. Whatever. All right. So let's start with Team Sith, which seems to be losing members. And it's just trying to get started, man. Kumir is definitely in coach mode, pushing Mae to kill Kelnacca, reminding her that even though her sister is now alive, she still has to kill the Wookiee because she made a deal of which she doesn't honor. Apparently the Sith Master will kill her. High stakes, high stakes. They continue to wonder just how you can kill a Jedi without a weapon. And Mae clarifies that it's not a test, but she was told it was a lesson, the final lesson that you teach yourself. But then she says, how can you kill a Jedi if they will not fight someone who is unarmed? You know, she says it's impossible. But I mean, you can kill someone without having to engage with them. I don't quite understand how that would keep her from doing anything. Now, some of you have guessed that Mae's master might be talking about mastering the Force choke, which is a specialty unique to the dark side, where you literally use your fear, anger, and hatred to kill someone. Someone didn't see Inside Out. All emotions are good. But yeah, I mean, I think that would kind of work, and that you are weaponless. You're killing with your hate, anger, and fear, which is cool. I think that's an interesting idea. You know, certainly you really would become full-on Sith at that point. But it seems Mae is dropping out of Sith school because she decides that with Osha alive, that does change everything. Kumir is wrong. And that basically family is more important than religion. You know, a lot of religions do divide families. And so I think that's an interesting commentary as well. Also, speaking of family, we find out that the twins use the last name Anastasia after Mother Anastasia, because Yord calls out Mae to surrender and he calls her Mae Anastasia. And I thought that was a very touching remembrance that these two twins live on through her. Maybe that's another reason that Coral's upset. She's like, it can't be Anastasia, Coral. All right, Mae traps Kumir, telling him she's going to turn herself into Kelnacca and the Jedi. And then Kumir's like, well, be happy and have a good time in jail for murder. And she goes, I'm going to make a deal. I'm going to turn stool pigeon and tell them everything they want to know about the Sith, well, everything that she knows. I mean, as Saul already pointed out, she doesn't know his identity, but she probably knows enough to make Kumir be like, oh shit, don't do that, and to have the Sith Master come after her. Anyway, she feels she'll get to the Jedi before her Sith Master gets to her. She thinks he's not even on planet, but of course he is. Now again, did Kumir get free that quickly from her trap? But then how did Saul already spot him in the trees? So maybe he's someone else? Kumir describes their master in a very creepy way, saying he collects people. And I think that's the way he's looking at Osha, wondering if he can add her to his collection as well, or perhaps as a replacement for the defecting Mae. This twin's defective. How about this one? Then over on Team Jedi, we start out at their home base, where sure enough, the Jedi are learning defensive fighting techniques. I told you I thought it was really cool the way their fighting had been reimagined to be mostly defensive, because, you know, they're a peaceful group, supposedly, right? I know some of you are a little frustrated about, you know, the Jedi, or some of the Jedi, you know, not good. But, you know, no group is uniform. There's always going to, I mean, I actually think there's a theory behind this. I think that some of the Jedi acting poorly is maybe helpful to the Sith and helps them rise to power. So I think that's actually part of why they're doing what they're doing. All right. So, yes, this guy's teaching the class fighting techniques where he says, maximize your defenses without need to strike. Osha, it turns out, is running away from her problems. Not just Mae, but also the fact that she was kicked out of the Jedi. I'm sure it's painful to be there. And she's planning to go back to work. She's not even going to say goodbye to Saul. But Saul needs her as bait for Mae because the Jedi know something is wrong. They're seeing Mae is very well trained in the Force, but by whom? And she's not using Jedi techniques, yet clearly she has access to the Force. And I think, of course, they've known of other Force users in the past, like the Coven that we saw in the flashback. But I think, for the most part, that Coven had gone to a distant planet to practice, to connect with the Force as they saw in peace. Although, obviously, again, it didn't work out for them. I guess here, this Force user is really, killing off Jedi and making some waves. And I think also maybe operating in a way that a Jedi would operate and therefore offering an alternative to being a Jedi, which is like, what? It's like a competing franchise. So it turns out that Saul's boss, Vernestra, knows that something happened 16 years ago. How much we know, like on Brendok. How much she knows, we're not sure. But she is upset with Saul that she's like, how could you not tell me that Mae was still alive? And he's like, I didn't know. And then her response is, how could you not know? Way to, not, dot your I's and cross your T's on whatever happened back then. So I think Vernestra seems a little sus as well. They agree that the real threat, though, is Mae's mysterious master and that they can't find him without bringing in Mae alive. I think it's crazy. There was even a discussion that they maybe wouldn't bring her in alive, right? You're like, what's going on here? You guys are all, powering the Sith. But how can they get Mae to surrender willingly? Well, Osha, right? So when Saul asks Osha to go on the mission, it was kind of a bummer that she got excited that maybe she was getting back into the Jedi. I was like, Saul, you should have been a little more clear up front, man. But she has to instead wear the civilian outfit. I don't know why they have a special outfit for civilians, but I do like the pockets on it, though. Osha is feeling the Force again, though, right? So maybe she will get back into the Jedi, but it's at the worst time. She wakes up that bug. There are some alien vibes in this episode as well, like stop touching stuff on a strange alien planet. And then also, what's that pollen that Mae fell into? That reminded me a lot of the recent Ridley Scott movies. It doesn't seem to have any effect, though. I would have thought that for sure it would have at least made her or Basil sneeze. I was like, that's just a bunch of pollen. I mean, I would freak out if I went on an alien planet if I landed in a bunch of pollen. I'd be like, quick, find some water. All right. But that, wash yourself off, snoot it out. All right. It's probably too late. All right. I will agree that it will be sloppy if that does not lead to something, because it's just, why do it then? I mean, all right. So, Basil still would have seen her fall face flat in front of him. But we haven't seen the whole show yet. We don't know how these things are going to play out. And, this show clearly is playing the long game. All right, but that bug, back to the bug, it wakes up and attacks them. I don't know why none of the other bugs woke up. Yeah, I get it. I agree. That is a problem. All right, and Saul makes quick work of it. I think what it means by saying the Jedi only draw their lightsaber if they're willing to kill is it's not so much that they want to kill at that moment, but that it's on the table. That's the only reason they draw it, because it's such a powerful sword, like don't pick it up if you don't intend to use it or deploy it. Osha feels guilty that her Force awakening got that bug killed. It didn't have to attack you guys, man. I think that was 50-50. But Jackie says it's an honor to witness anything that dies, as that means it's joining the Force. And you're like, what? That's a very convenient belief. I don't know if I like that. Because that makes me feel like the Jedi are seen as good simply because they believe they are and find a way to justify their actions. On that note, now I want to talk about maybe these Jedi being the issue. So we know that Mae, we know why she would want these 4 Jedi dead, but why would her Sith Master want them dead? He gets to Kelnacca first, right? Carving an X into his chest with a lightsaber, an X that's still smoking when Mae discovers him. That was cool too. Why did he pick these 4 Jedi and then go to Mae, right? Or did he want Mae? He seems like a manipulator, though. I don't think Mae's endgame. I think there's something to do with these 4 Jedi. But, so it's what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Did he want to kill the 4 Jedi and so Mae was a way to do that? Or did he want to get Mae, and to get Mae, he needed to say he would help her kill the 4 Jedi? Tomato, tomato. All right. I think bottom line, we know these Jedi did something very bad, something they felt they couldn't justify. Why did they say, we sent all those witches to join the Force, right? Like, why are they still so guilty about it? So is what they did giving power, fuel to the Sith Master? Are these 4 Jedi somehow connected to the dark side, sensitive to it? Is that why only Saul is able to sense that Sith Master in the trees? Is that why he's the only one who senses him outside Kelnacca's dwelling? Very interesting. I find it very interesting. All right, I love the design for the Sith Master. A helmet like Darth Vader and Kylo Ren, but no eyes. He doesn't need them. He sees with the Force. And my, what big metal teeth you have, Sith Master, on his helmet, twisted into a smile. And his helmet's all scratched up. He looks so cool. Also, he's so powerful. A mere flick of his hand, he's throwing everybody around. You go that way, you guys go that way. I'm like, I love Force use. I'm excited to see him face off with the Jedi, especially versus Saul next week. Oh, what if Saul falls to the dark side? Oh, that's going to be an incredible scene. All right, well, if it happens. Finally, Osha feels she might have a future again. Her sister is alive and she's feeling the Force. While before she didn't want to see her sister, she felt she couldn't face her. She couldn't take her on. She even tells Yord to take Mae out because she thinks she's going to flinch again. Now Osha feels she has a family again and she might be able to be a Jedi after all. And Mae feels that suddenly she has a future again too. And I think that's also interesting. I think that's another commentary on that religion often sometimes preys on those who feel they have no other options. And that's also very interesting. All right, we'll see if they can hold on to their future going forward, most likely by holding on to each other. Oh, I hope we see some Force dyad action between the two of them. We only got a small taste of it at the end of episode 9, and I feel there's potential there. All right, so what did you think of the Acolyte episode 4? What are your theories? What are your hopes for next week's episode? And did it change your mind about the show even just a little bit? Just a scooch with the Sith Master. And again, I haven't seen any of the other episodes, so we're all in for a treat. We'll see what happens next week. Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.